the first man and woman that God has created were given the power to choose. If we are going to base our information or our faith or our belief from the revealed Word of God in the Bible, and if you do believe the Bible, you can have certainty about the answer that I'm going to give you. Originally, the first man and the first woman that God created, you will notice that there is something that God gave them after their creation. You will notice it in the commandment that was given by God to Adam. Genesis chapter 2, verse 16, Brother Daniel.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
If you are going to use a close scrutiny of what God has said to Adam, you will find something great, something of great importance. The Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. So if, for example, the Garden of Eden is 1 square hectare, every tree in that garden is edible. There is not a tree there which is not edible, because God said to the man or to Adam, Of every tree in the garden thou mayest freely eat. Sometimes people do not realize the truth about this. But I will give you an insight. You eat tamarind. Maybe it is in the Garden of Eden also. Maybe the sweetest of tamarind was there. Sampalok in Tagalog, tamarindo in Spanish. You can eat tamarind. And maybe you have tasted one. The very sweet one, I love tamarind. But you do not just eat the fruit of the tamarind tree. You can even eat the leaves of the tamarind tree. So if you're going to closely analyze what God said in that verse, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Sometimes there are barks of a tree that can be useful to man. There are barks of trees, not only the fruit, but even the bark of the tree is useful. For example, a kind of tree in the Philippines which is edible, we call it duhat. The bark of that tree is a medicine for loose bowel movements. So, the tree can be edible. The tree itself, the bark. For example, the bamboo tree. The shoots of the bamboo can be eaten. It is not poisonous. What I'm trying to picture in your mind is the Word of God in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. You can eat from those trees, the fruit, or even the bark if you want to. But the regular understanding is that God is speaking of the fruit. But if you are going to look closely scientifically, even the bark of the tree, even the shoots of the tree, like the bamboo tree, can be eaten. Now, but God said to Adam, But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. What does that imply? It implies that Adam has a free choice. Even if the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is prohibited to him, but there is a way that he can eat of it. But there was a warning given by God. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die, God said to Adam. So it is possible that Adam may decide against what God has instructed him. But only there is a penalty. The prohibition is you must not eat of that tree, but if you eat of that tree, thou shalt surely die. It implies that the first man and woman that God has created were given the power to choose. To choose obedience to God or disobedience. But in disobedience, there is a penalty, making us realize that God is a God of love. He will not just let us do whatever we want to do and then suffer by our own selves and be lost. No. There was always a warning, and warning implies that God cares for us. The warning implies that God does not want us to be lost or to be damned. You may eat all of the trees in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. The warning takes our attention to the loving kindness and the concern of God for us. God does not want us to be lost. God does not want us to be going into perdition. But it implies that if we, in spite of God's love and admonition, if we are going to choose what is against His will, there will always be penalty of our action. We have to answer for the consequences of our action and decision. Your question is, does God have control on the fate of a man, or it is the man to have or to make his own destiny? They are both true. The premise of your question are both true, or the essence of your question. God has control in the fate of a man if you are going to submit yourself to God. God will take control of you. But if you are going to disobey God and take control of yourself, then your destiny will depend on your action.